Part 136. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1351. Chapter 1351. Gu Jingxia was left hanging. During the break of the crew, Xia Yingluo was playing with her mobile phone. Suddenly her eyes widened, she read the news report as if she had seen a ghost, and threw the mobile phone away. Tan Ying, who was walking towards her, caught her. "Why are you so angry, miss?" "They went too far." Xia Yingluo stretched out a white finger and pointed at the phone. She was so angry that she couldn't speak clearly. "They actually said that I was in favor of Wei Lingnan. Do I look like that kind of person? I obviously am. How about being forcefully kissed? His 18th generation." Tan Ying silently held her forehead. It seemed that Miss Xia was indeed very angry this time, and she was almost violent. Although Xia Yingluo usually looks like a lady, she has been involved in gangs with her father and brother since she was a child. What kind of people have she never come into contact with? If she really got offended, she would have a rich vocabulary of scolding people. She would not use the same words for 3 days and 3 nights. At this time, she would use all the swear words that people in the world can think of to curse Wei Lingnan inside and outside, up and down. Relatives and descendants all exchanged greetings, completely forgetting that they were scolding themselves. Tan Ying waited patiently and waved away a few staff who were watching the fun. Have those staff ever seen a high-ranking celebrity swearing like this? Are you all shocked? Finally, Xia Yingluo was tired from scolding, so she took a breath and drank some water. Tan Ying calmly handed the phone back to her. "Take a touch of makeup, someone is looking for you outside." "Who?" "Missing." Xia Yingluo was still angry. "Gu Jingxiu." Xia Yingluo suddenly raised her head and gritted her teeth. "Why is she here?" "How do I know?" Tan Ying was particularly irresponsible. Wearing the latest beaded embroidered jersey released during Paris Spring Fashion Week, a colorful diamond necklace, and a customized Hermes bag, she probably had all the most expensive and most show-off items in her family. "I put it on to provoke you. No matter what she is here for, the last thing a beautiful woman can tolerate is provocation from others. Especially from a love rival." Xia Yingluo looked down at herself. She had just finished filming, and she had a sweater thrown over her body. She hadn't had time to clean up the mud on her hands and feet. Necklace? No. Bag? No. The most valuable thing on the body is probably the mobile phone in my hand. There is also a long-eared rabbit affixed to the phone that looks very stupid at first glance. Tell her I'm missing. Xia Yingluo was furious. People were knocking on her door wearing gorgeous uniforms. She didn't want to be overwhelmed like this. It would be even more fun if the other party brought a reporter with them to take some comparison photos and circulate them. Tan Ying shrugged, not caring whether she saw him or not. Anyway, Gu Jingxiu could think of anything he wanted to do with her on his knees. He turned around and was about to send someone to turn around Gu Jingxiu. "Wait," Xia Yingluo suddenly called him. "Let her wait." Tan Ying paused in his steps and gave her a smile that seemed to be both admiration and sarcasm. "You, Mom, haven't learned your singing skills, but you have to inherit this temper from her." It was very difficult for her to wait for this statement. Subtle. You can wait a minute, you can wait an hour, God knows how long? Many big shots would ignore little people like this. If Gu Jingxiu really waited, it would be obvious that he was inferior to Xia Yingluo. This move is almost useless. Xia Yingluo was not happy. She got up and walked to the dressing room and said, "Uncle Tan, you are too biased to say this. Why haven't I learned my mother's singing skills? I sing well." Tan Ying smiled. "Your mother is a phoenix." These 5 words can kill Xia Yingluo. Xia Yingluo was speechless and looked up at the sky. Well, although her own singing was good, it was still inferior to that of my dear mother. Who calls her a phoenix? Born with bonuses. The darling of the planet is just different. She suddenly thought, if she carefully used the resonance frequency of the Scatena star and added it to the singing, would there be a different effect? Maybe it's a song that is completely different from Nirvana Phoenix, but it's also very intoxicating. With this in mind, she walked into the dressing room. While simulating the feasibility of singing in her mind, she nonchalantly changed her clothes and put on makeup. With this delay, I forgot about time, knowing that it was getting late and the colorful clouds were spreading little by little on the horizon. Tan Ying, who couldn't bear it anymore, finally knocked on her door. "Miss, you can leave after changing your clothes. Even if you leave Gu Jingxiu alone, don't leave me alone, I will have something to do later." Xia Yingluo walked out of the dressing room and found that the crew had already begun to finish work. She asked Tan Ying, "Is Gu Jingxiu gone?" "No, I'm still waiting for you." Tan Ying was a little gloating. Anyone who offends our Tianyi will not end well. The staff didn't even move a stool for her, so she just stood in the wind and waited. It's a shame she could stand so many people passing by pointed at her. Xia Yingluo smiled unconsciously, just hearing it relieved her anger. Think back to Tan Ying's depiction of Gu Jingxiu dressed in gorgeous clothes. It was so eye-catching, and the number of people turning around is probably high. Hearing that she was standing in the wind, Xia Yingluo was too lazy to go out and went back to the dressing room. "Let her come in." The posture of a queen summoning her subjects. Tan Ying glanced at her again, still with a little admiration and sarcasm in his eyes. No wonder it is said that villains and women are difficult to raise, and they will retaliate for the slightest offense. But it's none of his business. He walked out leisurely and asked someone to call Gu Jingxiu over. Gu Jingxiu was filled with anger. She came to the set to find Xia Yingluo. She originally thought that she had compromised enough, but she didn't expect that they would just leave her there for the whole afternoon, 3 hours. Not to mention that Xia Yingluo showed up, and even asked her if she wanted a drink of water. No one. She wanted to turn away in anger, but found that she simply couldn't do it. In this love war, she knew very well that she was the most vulnerable one. There was no admiration in Wei Lingnan's eyes when he looked at her, but only responsibility. As a woman, she was very sensitive about this. And the way that man looked at Xia Yingluo was a mixture of admiration, reluctance, pain, and the conflicting loss of hope and elusiveness. This is especially evident in the recent scandal photos. She was unwilling to give in. Unwilling to watch Wei Lingnan walk towards Xia Yingluo step by step. So, she had to come here to negotiate with Xia Yingluo. The dressing room was very quiet. When she walked in, she saw Xia Yingluo drinking a cup of tea nonchalantly. The white teacup rotated gently between her equally white fingers, and the glow outside the window made her face look like jade. Some women are attractive even in their casual appearance. Gu Jingxiu was jealous, but she knew now was not the time to be jealous. She grabbed her custom-made bag and cleared her throat. "Miss Xia." Xia Yingluo raised her head and looked at her. "I don't want to see you. If you have anything to say, please tell me." A very rude order. Gu Jingxiu was always a pampered eldest lady. Today, she was humiliated again and again, and she was slightly angry. "Miss Xia, do you think I really want to see you?" We agreed, and I advised Nan not to make things difficult anymore. You don't bother Nan anymore. But now, I did what I promised. Did you do what you promised? It's the end of the year. If you have a monthly pass, don't hide it. This is the last time I ask for a monthly pass this year. I'm covering my face. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1352. Chapter 1352 The Queen's Proof. Xia Yingluo narrowed her eyes slightly. She didn't expect that some people could really confuse right and wrong. It was obviously Wei Lingnan who was pestering her, but why did she become the shameless one when it came to Gu Jingxiu's mouth? She darkened her face. Gu Jingxiu, pay attention to your wording. It's your own business not to care about him, and it has nothing to do with me. Gu Jingxiu was speechless. In fact, she didn't know who took the initiative. If Xia Yingluo wants to be with Wei Lingnan, it's very simple, just showing her identity is enough. But she didn't, so it must be that Wei Lingnan couldn't let go of his old love and went to look for her regardless. How could Gu Jingxiu accept such truth? She looked at Xia Yingluo bitterly. Stop making excuses. In short, you can't pester him anymore. Even if he comes to find you, you have to cut off your relationship with him. Xia Yingluo, look at those photos in the news. Why are you so shameless? Shameless, Xia Yingluo laughed angrily. Gu Jingxiu, you seem to have forgotten whose gift you got today. A mere defective product made of experimental waste dares to impersonate me? What if I expose it? Do you believe that he will never look at you again? Gu Jingxiu's expression was ugly. Xia Yingluo, don't always put your status on others. Even if you have the energy of the Scatana star in your body, we are still the same. Why do you think you are the queen? Who is the queen? Must. That's me, Xia Yingluo said softly. Regarding this issue, it has been lingering in Gu Jingxiu's mind day and night recently. She has thought about it many times. At this time, she said, why do you say you are? Because you are pregnant with the world tree? Sorry, that's just because Nan wants, and if we were together, we would still be able to get pregnant. Or do you think your energy is stronger than mine? But Nan's energy is stronger than both of ours, so it doesn't matter whether he is the queen or not. It doesn't matter. I woke up earlier than you, I am the queen. Xia Yingluo smiled, don't overestimate your capabilities. Gu Jingxiu, what did you say? She was very sure of her guess. Even if she couldn't turn her fingers into sharp claws like Xia Yingluo, this song alone couldn't prove who was the queen. She always felt that she also had a chance. She only concealed Xia Yingluo's awakening from Wei Lingnan in order to avoid unnecessary complications. But now, Xia Yingluo's determined smile made her panic. Xia Yingluo looked at her calmly, do you want me to show you the evidence? What? Gu Jingxiu had an ominous premonition in her heart. Xia Yingluo's eyes looked at her quietly. Gu Jingxiu suddenly realized that her body was out of control. She walked step by step to the dressing table, picked up an eyebrow trimmer on the table, and stabbed her throat bit by bit. She was terrified and tried hard to control her hand, but that hand didn't look like her own at all. No matter how she tried to put down the knife, the eyebrow trimming knife slowly but surely moved towards her throat, and finally, it pierced her throat. Her skin. The cold blade was buried in the warm blood, and bright red blood beads slid down the neck. Gu Jingxiu's eyes widened in fear, and she tried her best to tell Xia Yingluo to stop, but she could only make a ho-ho sound. She saw Xia Yingluo still standing there, with a half smile on her lips and a calm look, as if she was admiring a humble ant. Despair spread, and it was only then that Gu Jingxiu deeply felt how big the energy gap between himself and Xia Yingluo was. Is this the difference between genuine experimental subjects and spare ones? Not willing to give in, she is so unwilling to give in. The thrust of the eyebrow razor into the throat stopped. Xia Yingluo revoked control of her. Gu Jingxiu quickly threw the eyebrow trimming knife away from her, put one hand on her bleeding throat, took a few steps back, and looked at her with fear. Xia Yingluo still smiled lightly, not even changing the curve of her beautiful lips. Do you know what a queen is? The queen's will is the will of the whole clan. If I want you to die, you have to die. Believe me, this is the case. Even Wei Lingnan can't control it, even if his energy is stronger than the two of us combined, he can't even make any clan member pick up the slightest straw. This is the queen's unique ability. The queen's will cannot be defied. Gu Jingxiu was greatly shocked and looked at her in disbelief. After a long time, she said in a hoarse voice, I don't believe it. Xia Yingluo felt a little irritated. This woman was too difficult to deal with. She still didn't believe it after all this, so what else could she do? Just listen to Gu Jingxiu say, "You must be lying to me. How do I know whether only the queen has such an ability, or whether people with strong energy can control people with weak energy? Among the three of us, I have the weakest energy. So there is no way to verify the truth of what you said. You must have taken advantage of this and deliberately chose a method that I couldn't verify, to make me believe that you are the queen." Xia Yingluo was so depressed that she wanted to hit the wall. Is this Gu Jingxiu smart or stupid? After her inference, this logic actually seems like that. Xia Yingluo forced herself to calm down. Taking a deep breath, she resisted the urge to strangle Gu Jingxiu, and then said, "If you are the queen, how come you don't know whether this ability is possessed by all clan members, or is it unique to the queen?" Gu Jingxiu was stunned for a long time, and said dryly, "That's because my memory has not been awakened yet. You just remember a little more things than me. But this does not mean that you are the queen." Looking at the dying Gu Jingxiu, Xia Yingluo was really helpless. The evidence was placed in front of her, but she chose to turn a blind eye. Is it impossible to really kill her so that she would stop disturbing her life? However, if Gu Jingxiu died, Wei Lingnan would definitely go crazy. Whether it was because of Gu Jingxiu's death or discovering her identity, she still needed Gu Jingxiu to stand in front of her and help her cover. Looking at the desperate and crazy woman in front of her, Xia Yingluo felt embarrassed. The dressing room door was opened. Huge sound. The two women in the room turned their heads to look, and saw Wei Lingnan's tall figure appearing at the door, wearing a shirt and trousers, blocking most of the sunset. His narrow, cold eyes glanced lightly and locked on the wound on Gu Jingxiu's neck that was still dripping with blood. He stepped forward in a few steps and asked, "How did it happen like this?" "Nan," Gu Jingxiu felt extremely aggrieved and threw herself into his arms. Xia Yingluo suppressed the uncomfortable feeling in her heart and turned her head. Wei Lingnan's hand gently touched Gu Jingxiu's wound, and a faint energy sheen seeped out from her fingers. Soon, her bleeding wound healed, and her skin was smooth and clean, leaving no trace. "How did you get hurt?" he asked, with a faint murderous intent in his voice. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1353. Chapter 1353 Never Forgive. Gu Jingxiu noticed his displeasure and calmed down before speaking. "It's okay, I accidentally cut it when I took the eyebrow trimmer." Wei Lingnan's expression became even colder. "Accidentally? Why would you go to get an eyebrow trimmer when you are so good?" Although there is no need to help her cover up. As soon as he stepped into the dressing room, he found that the atmosphere between the two of them was tense. Xia Yingluo standing arrogantly, Gu Jingxiu looked a little confused. He believed that Gu Jingxiu had been bullied, and he couldn't help but feel angry. Gu Jingxiu was very excited. Wei Lingnan was facing her. But she had to help Xia Yingluo cover up because she couldn't explain how she, as an awakened queen, could be hurt by Xia Yingluo. "It's really me," she said weakly. "Yingluo is carrying the world tree, which is so important to the planet Scatena anyway. I think it's better to dissolve enemies than to marry them, and I hope to get along well with her." And that's when she came to see her. "Nan, you know that the thing that brings girls closer together is beauty, makeup, and other topics. I was just discussing eyebrow shaping with Yingluo, so I went under the knife." Her voice was soft, echoing in the air, making people's hearts soften. Wei Lingnan's face still looked ugly. "Why did you lie?" Gu Jingxiu's heart skipped a beat and she looked at him in panic. How could he be so sure that she was lying? Wei Lingnan also looked at her. Alo, you don't have to wrong yourself like this. You saw the scandal reported in the media and you got angry and wanted to settle the score with Xia Yingluo. I understand. You don't have to be afraid that I will be unhappy and whitewash the peace coup. There were no flaws in what Jingxiu said. If another person said it, he would believe it. But, who said she was the reincarnation of Aluo? Aluo is so proud that he doesn't even bother to flatter his love rival. Gu Jingxiu's expression paled slightly, and she probably remembered the arrogant look of the queen in her previous life, so she fell silent. Wei Lingnan looked away from her and aimed at Xia Yingluo. Tell me. Xia Yingluo snorted coldly. Why should he interrogate her like a prisoner? She has no obligation to answer. Wei Lingnan sneered. Okay, you don't have to say it, right? I'll say it for you. Aluo came to you, and you were unhappy, so you used the energy of the world tree to hurt her. Xia Yingluo, why are you so vicious and ignorant of the seriousness? Is she vicious and ignorant of the seriousness of it? Xia Yingluo was stunned. She didn't know whether to laugh at Wei Lingnan's stupidity or to be angry. It turned out that he thought she used the energy of the world tree to attack Gu Jingxiu. No wonder she had bullied Gu Jingxiu twice, and he still couldn't see that she was a queen. Damn it, I always thought that her energy came from the world tree in her belly. Yeah, so what? She made a mistake. That's okay, it helps hide your identity. However, the moment he heard her admit it personally, Wei Lingnan's expression was as gloomy as a storm. He strode forward and pinched her neck with one hand. I worked hard to deliver energy to you, not to let you squander it like this. Does she know how precious the energy of the world tree is? The pitifully little energy allowed her to survive with the world tree seeds in her belly, but she was still wasting it on other places. He stared at her fiercely, wishing to cut this ignorant woman into pieces. Xia Yingluo was choked by him until she almost suffocated. She struggled feebly, but in vain. She didn't dare to use her energy. Her energy was different from that of the world tree. Once she used it in front of Wei Lingnan, he would definitely be able to see through her identity. At the same time, she did not dare to use the energy of the world tree. As Wei Lingnan said, the energy of the world tree was too precious and could not be wasted elsewhere. Not even a little bit. She could only be helplessly held by him, staring at him fiercely, and the pain was as if her throat was burning. On the side, Gu Jingxiu let out a small ah, fearing that something might happen, and wanted to persuade Wei Lingnan to put Xia Yingluo down. However, when he saw Xia Yingluo's face turning pale due to pain, she felt very relieved and moved her lips. And finally said nothing. Wei Lingnan still stared at Xia Yingluo with a pair of gloomy glasses. Apologized to the queen. Xia Yingluo sneered with great difficulty, her eyes and brows filled with disdain. Apologize, Wei Lingnan's tone increased. The furniture in the dressing room shook due to his angry energy fluctuations. Bottles and jars fell to the ground and broke into pieces. But Xia Yingluo still sneered. Apologize. It's a fantasy, she is the aloof queen of Scatana and the daughter of the Phoenix, how could she bow down to others? Wei Lingnan's fingers were like iron pliers, pinching her so hard that she almost suffocated, but she didn't give in at all. Wei Lingnan was irritated in his heart. Believe it or not, I will strangle you to death. He felt that he had been extremely kind to her. Offending the queen was a capital crime, and just asking her for a small apology was already an act of mercy outside the law. What was she so stubborn about? No, she was pinched very painfully by him, and she struggled to make a sound, but it was clear. She wanted to see if the man in front of her would really strangle her to death, and even her thoughts were a little wandering. If she was really strangled to death by him, and he discovered her identity again and found that he had strangled the queen to death, would it be not interesting? A sarcastic smile appeared on the corner of his lips, and he felt faintly sad. Recalling that hundreds of millions of years ago, Even many of the most ferocious tribesmen had privately commented that Wei Lingnan was cruel, but she never thought that she would speak up for him every time she heard these comments, but now she knows that he is really cruel. His gentle side will probably only be reserved for the girl named Alugo, right? It's a pity that he is no longer the Alugo in his heart. Perhaps what he liked was never himself, but just an illusory phantom. His mind gradually became blurry and his pupils were slightly dilated. Wei Lingnan's ferocious beast-like eyes were still staring at her, and he loosened his hand little by little. He didn't really want to strangle her to death. Even in his rage, he controlled all his strength to the critical point and was careful not to hurt the world tree seeds in her belly. If the seed senses a life threat, it will activate energy to protect itself, just like it did when it bounced away from Gu Jingxiu in his bedroom last time. That method consumes a lot of it. Once the consumed energy cannot be replenished in time, both it and her would be in danger. This was another reason for his anger. How could she squander the energy of the world tree? Xia Yingluo was let go by him, and she lay limply on the ground gasping for breath, then slowly and with difficulty got up. Wei Lingnan, her voice was hoarse and soft, I will never forgive you. This feather-light voice fell on his heart word by word. For some reason, he just felt it weighed more than 1,000 caddies. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1354. Chapter 1354. The Male God Zhang Yu. Xia Yingluo endured her physical discomfort, looked pale, and walked out little by little. She passed by Wei Lingnan, her hair brushing his shoulder. He could smell the faint fragrance on her body. It was very special. Maybe it was because she was pregnant with the world tree. It actually reminded him of his distant hometown. He just barely reached out to hold her, and finally held back, silently watching her back disappear outside the dressing room door. Xia Yingluo walked alone step by step into the sinking dusk. The crew has been working on outdoor scenes these days. There is a sparkling lake not far away, and a long wooden plank road stretches along the lake. She walked aimlessly along the wooden plank road, with the sound of water lapping at the shore. She squatted down in the twilight, curled up and hugged herself, and screamed like a wounded animal. Only here, at this moment, alone, could she dare to let her sorrow burst. Scenes of Wei Lingnan protecting Gu Jingxiu appeared in front of her eyes. Even if she told herself not to think about it, it was useless. She clearly recalled how he tenderly cared for that woman and how he strangled her neck without saying a word. Show mercy. She used to like him so much and regarded him as life. She never thought that one day he would turn against her. Nan, she said with a sob voice. Thinking back to that time on Scatena, he said he would protect her for the rest of his life. Now that he thinks about it, maybe they were bound to their guardian identities from very early on, and he couldn't change it at all. Now, on Earth, there are other women to choose from, and he doesn't want her. She buried her head in her arms, her thin shoulders twitching. She was so sad that she was about to die. I don't know how long it took, but she felt a warmth coming from her shoulders, as if a piece of clothing was draped around her body. She stopped sobbing, raised her head, and saw an extra person on the boardwalk. Her handsome appearance was pleasing to the eye in the sunset. It's Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu knelt down and looked at her level. Her voice was very gentle. Why are you crying here alone? His voice made her nose sore and she was about to cry again. She quickly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and said fiercely, I'm not crying. She was the queen of Scatena, how could she be so embarrassed? Zhang Yu smiled, with some endearment and helplessness. What are you pretending to be in front of me? Your acting skills are terrible. Her tears flowed down unsatisfactorily. You said my acting skills are bad. She simply buried her head in her arms again, sobbing and crying. Zhang Yu looked at her distressedly, half knelt on the ancient wooden plank road, and stretched out his hand to hug her into his arms. Her body stiffened and she wanted to get out of his arms, but she didn't. His gentle voice sounded again, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have laughed at your poor acting skills." She cried harder, as if he had found an excuse for her to vent her anger. The thin body trembled slightly in his arms, and after a long time, the crying gradually weakened. He stroked her long hair up and down until she had cried enough, and then said, "Let's go, it's getting dark, I'll take you home." She then remembered how much time had passed and looked up at him, her eyes swollen like walnuts. "Why are you here?" she asked hoarsely. Jong Yu said, "When I was finishing work, I heard that Gu Jingxiu came to see you. I was worried, so I waited nearby. Then I saw you walking out alone, looking lost. I was afraid that something would happen to you, so I came over to have a look." "So he didn't see Wei Lingnan?" Xia Yingluo was stunned for a moment, but then she realized that the man was elusive and it was normal for Zhang Yu not to notice. She whispered, "Thank you for accompanying me." Zhang Yu still smiled softly, "No matter what you say, we are friends." He stretched out his hand towards her. Under the last rays of the setting sun, his palms were dry and warm, placed safely in front of his eyes, like a trustworthy mountain. She looked at the hand steadily for a long time, then slowly stretched out her hand, and he held it firmly. He pulled her up and took her along the wooden plank road in the direction he came from. The sound of water waves lapped gently behind them, and it was quiet and picturesque. The crew had already finished work, and the staff had dispersed. Only Tan Ying, her assistant, and several assistants around him were waiting in a temporary shed, drinking cold water and looking towards the lake from time to time. One glance. Seeing the two returning hand in hand, everyone stood up and went to greet them. Tan Ying's eyes flashed across the hands they were holding without trace. "Do you still know about coming back?" Xia Yingluo wanted to take her hand away, but Zhang Yu held it tighter. He smiled and said to everyone, "Let's all leave. I'll take Yingluo home." Tan Ying raised her eyebrows and glanced at Xia Yingluo. Seeing that she had no objection, she said, "It's time to go." She turned around and left first. He came to take care of this young lady under Li Lei's order, and he also knew very well that Li Lei wanted to bring her and Zhang Yu together. Since Zhang Yu offered to send her back, outsiders should not ruin the good atmosphere. In particular, he saw the tears in the corners of Xia Yingluo's eyes, and he didn't know what conflict he had just had with Gu Jingxiu and what sad things aroused him, but in any case, it was a good opportunity for Zhang Yu to take advantage of it. Brother Tan got into his car gracefully. Zhang Yu's assistants also dispersed, and soon the set became really empty. "Let's go," Zhang Yu said to Xia Yingluo, "My car is parked not far ahead and I will take you there." Xia Yingluo responded softly and walked side by side into the night with him. The two of them walked quietly for a while without saying anything. Zhang Yu was tall and had long steps, but he thoughtfully matched Xia Yingluo's pace and walked neither fast nor slow. After leaving the set, a luxurious Lamborghini parked in the shadow under the streetlight. Zhang Yu said to Xia Yingluo, "You wait here, I will get the car." Xia Yingluo responded and really stood there waiting. The night wind blew through her clothes. Unexpectedly, at this moment, something unexpected happened. A mineral water bottle flew out of nowhere and hit her hard. She was caught off guard and was hit hard, and she let out an ouch. Looking up, he saw a stout girl's head emerging from the bushes not far away, shouting at her, "Bitch! Shameless! You still cheat on me when you have my male idol Zhang Yu." After shouting, before she could react, she ran over. She was drenched with water and kept wiping her body. Zhang Yu heard the noise and ran over, asking repeatedly, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She shook her head, "It's okay, your little fan." What could she say when such a thing happened? It's impossible to be serious with someone, so when you catch them, throw a bottle of mineral water back at them. Happy New Year's Eve to everyone. This is the third update. Yesterday it was originally posted at 11 o'clock, but the login system has only been logged in now. Warm mail. Jonghyun spends the new year with everyone. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1355. Chapter 1355. Bathroom. Jonghyun felt very guilty, so he pulled her into the car, found a box of napkins and gave it to her. Wipe it up. Roll up the car windows to prevent her from getting cold due to the wind. Xia Yingluo used a pack of napkins to wipe away the water stains on her body. I don't know what was added to the water. It was sticky. Her hair was tangled and her skin was very uncomfortable. She said to Jonghyun, "Find a hotel to drop me off. I'll take care of it before going home." She doesn't want to worry her family if she goes back like this. Jonghyun glanced sideways at her. Hotel? You and I are both celebrities. How can we book a room without an agent to accompany us? Just walking into the lobby will cause onlookers to scream. Okay. Why don't you go to my house first and I'll buy you a set of clothes? Xia Yingluo didn't want to trouble him too much, so she hesitated. Jonghyun seemed to read her thoughts and smiled. This happened because of me. My fans provoked you, so it's normal for me to take responsibility. Probably the fan was not angry that she was still flirting with him because of the scandal. Photographed by paparazzi kissing Wei Lingnan. But I really don't blame her for this, but I can't share it with fans. She raised her head and saw the dim light of the street lamp pouring into the quiet car. Looking at Jonghyun, she asked softly, "Why are you so nice to me?" "I like you." Jonghyun didn't hide it at all, and replied warmly while driving, "So I want to take care of you." Her eyelashes were lowered, sweeping a faint shadow under her eyelids. "You don't have to be like this," she said. "You know what happened between us was just a show, and those scandals are not true." Jonghyun said, "It doesn't matter, I am willing to accompany you and I don't need you to repay me." Being able to stay with her and protect her already made him very happy. Even if she knew there was another person in her heart, so what? Relationships are like a race along the Great Wall. Looking at the current situation, Wei Lingnan will be out sooner or later, but he will stay with him until the end. He drove the Lamborghini smoothly towards his apartment. He has purchased several properties in the city, and he took Xia Yingluo to a private high-end apartment in a quiet environment with no paparazzi around. The two came out of the underground garage and quickly got on the elevator and entered the apartment on the 27th floor. Jonghyun turned on the light. Warm and bright light fills the entire room. Even though he lives alone, the place is kept very clean. In the middle is a set of soft and large leather sofas. The floor is covered with plush blankets, which are very comfortable for your feet. Xia Yingluo said, "I don't think you are such a homely person." He smiled lightly and said, "You can sit down wherever you like and take a rest, and I'll put the bath water in for you." She quickly said, "I can't trouble you. I'll do it myself." "Where is the guest room?" He did not force it, pointed her in the direction of the guest room, and pulled out a set of men's bathrobes. He said a little apologetically, "There are usually no guests here, so I didn't prepare the guests' clothes, only my own. But it's very clean. If you don't mind it, just wear it first. I'll ask the assistant to send a set of women's clothes. When you go out, you don't have to pay so much attention." When Xia Yingluo fought in a battle in her previous life, all the clothes on her body were taken off and worn. In this life, she was raised as a child and hung out with various religions. She was not as squeamish as other girls. She took Jonghyun's bathrobe, thanked her, and turned to enter the bathroom in the guest room. Jonghyun looked at her back, smiled softly, and called her assistant to send women's clothes. "There is a lot of water vapor in the bathroom." Xia Yingluo took off her sticky clothes and soaked her graceful and slender body in the bathtub. These days, Perhaps because she is pregnant with the world tree, she has lost a lot of weight, her skin is pale, and there is a faint unhealthy green color, and her ribs are clearly defined, which looks a bit shocking. She frowned and slowly washed herself with water, thinking that the speed of replenishing energy would be accelerated. The golden green mark in the palm of her hand remained unchanged. Even though Wei Lingnan poured so much energy into her last time, it was only to keep it from depleting. It didn't grow at all. Xia Yingluo knew that the later the world tree seeds grew, the more energy they would need to absorb, and she didn't know how to obtain the astronomical amount of energy. She frowned, thinking about this problem. Suddenly, she saw a figure faintly appearing in the reflection of the white tiles opposite. Who? She was startled and turned around suddenly. In the steamy bathroom, I don't know when there was a man. He was wearing a white and clean shirt. He had a slender and elegant figure. He was staring at her quietly with a pair of calm eyes. It was Wei Lingnan. Xia Yingluo's heart beat like a drum. Why did this person come in so silently? She looked at him warily, remembering that she was still naked, and quickly grabbed Zhang Yu's bathrobe nearby and wanted to put it on her body. Wei Lingnan grabbed her hand, took off the bathrobe, and threw it away like garbage. What are you doing? She shouted angrily, and his wrist was held by him with the strength of copper poured into iron. She struggled hard but couldn't get away, and glared at him, her eyes looking like they were about to spit out fire. The shower sprinkled mist like water vapor in mid-air, falling on the eyebrows of the two people. Wei Lingnan looked down at her, with a touch of sarcasm in his eyes. Why, you just wanted to live and die in front of me, and then you hooked up with another man in the blink of an eye. His voice was harsh, and she was stunned for a moment before she got angry. Who is going to die or live in front of you? Why are you fighting a Luo if you don't want to live or die? His eyes became a little darker. Xia Yingluo thought of what happened in the dressing room on the set during the day, and was furious. She sneered and said, that shrew came to trouble me. Do I deserve to be bullied by her and not fight back? Wei Lingnan, don't be so sentimental, even if it's all men in the world, no, even if all the male creatures in the universe are dead, I will not fight for you. His expression turned cold, he raised his hand and threw her heavily against the bathroom wall. She slid down the tiles covered with water mist, red. His naked body hit the edge of the bathtub hard, and the pain was so painful that it felt like his waist was about to be broken. For a while, she couldn't get up. She felt her hair being pulled by someone, and she was forced to raise her head to face his face, which was so close. You are looking for death, he spat out each word from between his teeth. The irritability in my heart came from nowhere. When I heard her say that all the men in the world would not die for him. That kind of sullenness seemed to devour him. But her expression was obviously twisted in pain, but she still showed a grinning sneer. You are looking for death. Wei Lingnan, you already have Gu Jingxiu, and you are hooking up with her outside behind her back. Who am I? You have found me, you are the queen, why do you still come to provoke me? At first, he scolded him, but then he gradually felt aggrieved and his nose started to feel sore again. This is the real first chapter of the new year. Happy New Year. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1356. Chapter 1356 Bloody Energy. Wei Lingnan's heart felt like it was about to explode, and her voice made him unable to answer. Yeah, why is it that even though Oluo is here, he can't help but come to her? With a cold face, he suppressed the chaotic thoughts in his heart, bit open his left wrist with his teeth, and tore out a hideous wound. The other hand grasped Xia Yingluo's long hair tighter, forcing her head to rise higher, and then brought the injured wrist to her mouth, and blood flowed into her mouth like a waterfall. She was choked and coughed several times in a row. The smell of blood and his fierce eyes almost suffocated her. She shook her head in vain, trying to break away from his control. The water in the bathtub splashed and wet their bodies. He moved his wrist to her mouth again, almost stuffing it into her mouth, and said in a violent voice, "Drink it if you don't want to die. You waste so much energy attacking Aluo. Do you know that your life and the world tree will be the same? Can't keep it?" She looked at him through the mist and blood, and then realized what he was doing. He probably thought she had lost too much energy, so he tracked her down here to replenish her energy. He didn't have time to make new potions, so he bit his own wrist open and fed her blood. She was a little startled. Under this man's cold and cruel appearance, he actually had a delicate heart, and he also cared about her life and death, which made her, unexpectedly miserable. Wei Lingnan saw her stunned and impatient. He grabbed her long hair and yanked it hard, pouring in the blood from her wrist. She let out a vague scream of pain, and all her sorrow and charming fantasies were turned into ashes. Subconsciously, she bit his wrist hard, like biting an enemy that would not stop fighting, and she wanted to bite off a piece of flesh. Sharp pain pierced his flesh and blood, and he frowned but did not move. In the haze of water mist, the girl who was forced to lie half up looked pale. Her face was so thin that it made people feel distressed, and her face was stained with blood. Her lips were soaked red with blood, and her 2 rows of small teeth were no longer visible. "Show the original color." She bit him tightly, with hatred bursting out of her eyes and sadness that was almost desperate, so hard and so desolate. His heart was throbbing with pain, which was stronger than the severe pain in his wrist. He looked at her expressionlessly, and slowly loosened his grip on her long hair. She did not let him go. She slid down the edge of the bathtub with a whimper, hugged his arm with both hands, and hung her whole body weight on it, like holding a life-saving driftwood. The shower head washed over her body, and her teeth were still biting his wrist, deeply embedded in it, as if they would not be separated forever. The blood slid down her lips and teeth, smearing on her fair and smooth body, as if covered with a layer of gorgeous wedding dress. She half knelt and half reclined, biting him as hard as she could. Tears filled the air, and her small cries were submerged in the continuous sound of water from the shower, making them inaudible. But he heard it. He knelt down little by little and held her in his arms with the hand that could still move. Her soft body touched his starched white shirt, so the water mixed with blood stained him red. He lost a lot of blood and his skin turned purple little by little, but he still allowed her to bite him and never pushed her away. It wasn't until she was tired of biting and crying that she feebly let him go. Only then did he realize that the tooth marks on his wrist were so deep that she had almost bitten off a piece of flesh. In the mist, he held her face in his hands and wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes with his slightly rough fingertips. She tilted her head, but she was still stubborn. "What are you doing?" I didn't cry. He didn't like her disobedience and wanted to say a few harsh words, but after looking at her embarrassed and messy appearance, the hurt that rushed to his mouth, everyone's words were swallowed back. "Why are you always having trouble with yourself?" His voice sounded like a sigh. "Aluo is upset and comes to trouble you, so just let her go. The fact that you are able to carry our world tree safely now is all hers gift." Her gift? Xia Yingluo raised her head. Her voice was sharp and her expression was forlorn. "In your eyes, should I look up to her forever?" Wei Lingnan frowned slightly. "She is the queen." She pushed him away, separated her body from his chest, and pressed against the cold wall of the bathtub. "You go." "Yingluo," he frowned again and inadvertently called out her name. This was the first time he called Gu Jingxiu Yingluo since he found out she was the queen. It was no longer Xia Yingluo with her given name, nor was she some unfamiliar Miss Xia, but Yingluo sounded so natural, as if she had called her thousands of times in a dream. Her heart started to tremble, and she immediately turned her face away. "Let's go." "What will happen if he stays?" Do you want to continue to persuade her not to disobey Gu Jingxiu? Even if she understood that he was interfering with the other person's status as queen, she still couldn't bear it. Once upon a time, would he have wronged her for someone else? Wei Lingnan looked at her. Her body is still very thin. She just drank so much of his blood, but the energy conversion rate is not high. At this time, her skin is still pale, and cyan blood vessels can be faintly seen under the translucent skin. He was very worried. How could such a weak body give birth to the world tree? It's just that it's useless to express these worries now. He looked at her for a long time and saw that she was not willing to pay attention to him at all, so he slowly stood up and left. Only halfway through did I remember. He seems to have forgotten something. When he first came here, in addition to sending her emergency energy, he also planned to launch an army to investigate the crime. She offended the queen. How could she just let it go? A price must be paid. However, seeing her in such misery and despair, all thoughts of punishment were forgotten. Wei Lingnan's brows furrowed even more tightly. What happened to him? With worries in mind, he returned all the way to Wei's underground base. The lights were on in the secret rest area of the base, and Gu Jingxiu stood in a brightly lit area waiting for him. Where have you been? Seeing him coming back, she forced herself to speak calmly, but her slightly trembling voice betrayed her inner excitement. Wei Lingnan paused. He didn't expect that Gu Jingxiu would be here so late. Didn't he already put her back to her room to rest? Seeing her attitude of asking for help, he could roughly guess what she wanted. However, his long-term loyalty to the queen made him not intend to hide it from her. I went to see Xia Yingluo and sent some energy to her. Transfer energy. Gu Jingxiu's voice shook even more, and she didn't know whether she was excited or angry. Look at what you look like now. Are you feeding her your blood directly? You've lost so much blood, why don't you worry about yourself? Can't hold on. She walked towards him, wearing a smoky blue knitted embroidered long skirt that spread out like moonlight. She raised her head and reached out to touch his slightly sunken cheek. Nan, I won't allow you to risk your life for that woman. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1357. Chapter 1357 Loyal to You. In the quiet and empty room, she looked anxious and eager. He gently pulled her hand away. Don't worry, He wanted to say that he would not risk his life for Xia Yingluo, but when he got to his mouth, the words changed and became, I know what to do. Nan, Gu Jingxiu's voice became sharp. It's getting late, why don't you go and have a rest? He changed the subject. Gu Jingxiu suddenly got angry. Why do you avoid it so much when it comes to that woman? What are your thoughts that you don't want me to know? Wei Lingnan, don't forget that I am your queen. Allo, Wei Lingnan frowned slightly. He had just teleported to find Xia Yingluo, and fed her so much blood. She was at her weakest and needed rest. But Gu Jingxiu made a fuss at this time, which made him a little anxious without realizing it. Gu Jingxiu grabbed his hand. Nan, how did you get the wound on your wrist? Did she bite it? Under the cold white light, the skin and flesh of the wound on his wrist rolled, and it did not heal automatically like before, but it was exposed in an extremely ferocious manner, and even the bones could be faintly seen. Gu Jingxiu was horrified. Why did she bite you so hard? Why didn't your wound heal on its own? Wei Lingnan took his hand out of hers and covered his wrist without leaving any trace. The loss is a bit large. I need to replenish it because Xia Yingluo bit her too hard and lost more energy than expected. She couldn't heal automatically. However, Wei Lingnan is now very grateful to Xia Yingluo for doing this, because this way he can have an excuse to rest without having to face the suspicious Aluo. He felt relieved because he still remembered how good Aluo was hundreds of millions of years ago. Whenever he was seriously injured and needed to replenish energy, she would rush him to recuperate. Even when she was the queen and didn't give him a good look, Once she found that something was wrong with him, she would forcibly withdraw him from any task to give him a chance to be alone to replenish his energy. He was ready to give her a kiss on the hand and then left. Unexpectedly, Gu Jingxia grabbed his hand again. Do you think you can just find an excuse to leave? Why did she bite you? Why did you get bitten by her in vain? Nan, I agreed to let her. Giving birth to the world tree does not mean that I agree with you. If you harm yourself again for her, I would rather let the world tree die. Shut up, Wei Lingnan suddenly shouted loudly. Gu Jingxia was frightened by his sudden anger and couldn't help but let go of his hand and took 2 steps back. Wei Lingnan's eyes looked like they were about to spit out flames, or like some kind of terrifying ferocious beast about to start a killing spree. He stared at Gu Jingxia murderously for a long time, and then slowly looked away. Sorry, I lost my temper, he said hoarsely, and he didn't understand why he suddenly got angry at Gu Jingxia. The moment he heard her say that she wanted World Tree to die, something boiled and screamed deep in his blood, making him want to strangle the woman in front of him immediately, even if she was the queen. He was shocked by his murderous intent at that moment. How could this happen? How could he become murderous towards a Luo? Took 2 steps forward and wanted to explain. Gu Jingxia backed away in fright, his expression turned pale. Since these days, he has been so good to her, so considerate and obedient that she has forgotten how proud and powerful he is, someone who can kill someone with just a flick of his finger. Gu Jingxia's lips trembled slightly. Are you trying to kill me? I'm not, Wei Lingnan explained hurriedly. Sorry, Aluo, I'm just. He closed his eyes and sorted out his chaotic thoughts. When you talked about killing the world tree, Aluo, the world tree is the most important thing to our Scatena tribe, have you forgotten? All the tribesmen will do their best to protect it, maybe that's why I'm so excited. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean it to you. Gu Jingxia bit her lip deeply, not knowing whether to believe what he said. In her memory, of course she also understood the importance of the world tree. However, in the past, all the world trees on the planet Scatena were borne by the queen, but now, the world tree and the queen have become opposites. Both sides. How to choose? Wei Lingnan. If, Gu Jingxia looked at him and asked cautiously, one day you have to choose between me and world tree, which one will you choose? In fact, what she wanted to ask more was, if he had to choose between her and Xia Yingluo, which one would Wei Lingnan choose? However, she did not dare to ask this question for fear of hearing an unpleasant answer. Wei Lingnan fell silent. Once, when Xia Yingluo was just pregnant, he thought about giving up the world tree seed, but as time passed, he now secretly longed for its birth. Gu Jingxia urged, south. Wei Lingnan looked at her, not knowing how to answer. The Scatena people have never faced such a complex and difficult question, and there is no standard answer to choose from. Unexpectedly, Xia Yingluo's delicate and pale face appeared in his mind again. If she were here, if she was the awakened queen, she would definitely not ask him such a difficult question, right? The queen's mission is to protect the world tree. No matter how cruel the queen is, she has never chosen between herself and the world tree. He was a little disappointed with Gu Jingxia in his heart, but he also secretly excused her. She had been living in the desolate time for so many years, and she had just awakened. It was already difficult for her to accept her identity as the Queen of Scatena, so she really couldn't be too harsh on her. I am loyal to you, he said. She was disappointed that he did not answer her question directly. The 4 words loyal to you aroused Gu Jingxia's deep uneasiness. It was the tone of a subordinate's business-like attitude towards his superiors. He had never spoken to her in such a tone before, as if something had changed unknowingly, and such a change frightened her. Not daring to push him any more, she said softly, you are tired, I will accompany you to have a good rest. Slowly walked forward, trying to support him. Her warm fingers rested on his injured wrist. He moved slightly, trying to get away from her, but held back. How could he make Alogo sad? She is his queen, his everything, his desire and dream for millions of years. All conflicts are his fault. This day, he controlled himself and stopped looking for Xia Yingluo. But he still couldn't help but pay attention to her secretly. After drinking his blood, he saw that her energy was better than before, but after a few days, her complexion slowly turned gloomy again. Even the reporters who visited the team realized something was wrong and reported one after another. Xia Yingluo was serious about filming, her professionalism was admirable, and she looked much haggard. He knew, how could this be caused by filming? It is the world tree seed in her belly, absorbing her vitality all the time. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1358. Chapter 1358. The movie is finished. Her energy consumption was great and her physical strength gradually became exhausted. Zhang Yu, her co-star, was very worried. Yingluo, is your health okay? If it doesn't work, just find a stuntman. There is no need to drag yourself down for a movie in the industry. Using stuntmen is not uncommon. Wu Dai, naked substitutes, and even literary substitutes, emerge in endlessly. Xia Yingluo really wanted to finish filming the scene, but she also understood that her condition was really bad and something would easily happen if she persisted. After careful consideration, she adopted Zhang Yu's suggestion and gave a few scenes that did not require much acting but required a lot of physical energy to stand-ins. Despite this, she still did not give up on quality control and insisted on being present in every scene in person, pointing out the stunts that the stuntman could not do well. The stuntman had a professional background, and the killing scenes on the battlefield were more than 1 or 2 points worse than Xia Yingluo. Xia Yingluo gave her careful guidance and finally trained her to be decent. The actress named Yu Minglan said, "Thank you, Miss Xia, I have benefited a lot from your advice. Even if I take on other roles in the future, it will be a very practical skill." Xia Yingluo smiled and said it was hard work. She is a beautiful girl from heaven, yet she is so unassuming that she wins the unanimous favor of the crew. Star Wars Chronicles has been completed as scheduled. Xia Yingluo consumes a lot of energy. Her body is getting worse day by day and she needs to replenish it urgently. Li Lei was so worried that he changed the schedule of one of his movies, moved Xia Yingluo to the front of the schedule, and seized the time to hold the premiere. At the premiere, Xia Yingluo wore a light pink tutu princess dress and rose-colored makeup, which added a touch of beauty to her thin, pale, and colorless cheeks. She stood on the stage, her beautiful eyes were watery, and countless flashlights were pointed at her. A slight smile and a look back were all beautiful. Zhang Yu stood beside her, her tall and handsome figure accentuating her slender beauty. She was a golden boy and beautiful girl, which caused many people in the audience to scream. Amidst the screams, Zhang Yu looked at her lovingly, and even a blind person could see that he had deep affection for her. Zhang Yu, Zhang Yu. Xia Yingluo, Xia Yingluo. Fans who had finally obtained tickets through various channels were extremely excited and shouted their names one after another, together. Together. God Zhang Yu and Goddess Yingluo want to be happy, although the media revealed some time ago that Xia intimate photos of Yingluo and Wei Lingnan, but thanks to Tianyi's public relations, most fans still stand firmly on the side of Zhang Yu and Xia Yingluo. Zhang Yu is personable and greets fans with a smile. Xia Yingluo held his hand quietly. In the entertainment industry, scandals between male stars and female stars are nothing new. Even if there is no interest between the two, for the sake of publicity and hype, the teams of both parties will often suggest that they form a couple. Although Xia Yingluo understands that Zhang Yu is really interested in her, she also knows that someone like Zhang Yu, who has been in the entertainment industry for many years, will definitely understand what is a joke and what is a work requirement, and he will show his professionalism, no matter what, take these heckles too seriously. The two stood side by side and were taken a lot of photos by the media and fans. The lights at the scene are dazzling. In the midst of a dreamy grand party, she felt a little uncomfortable. Jonghyun next to her noticed it, and when she was unprepared, she lowered her head and asked her, "What's wrong with you? Do you want to take a rest?" "No need," she said softly, giving him a reassuring smile. But her eyes couldn't help but look in one direction. It was strange. She always felt like someone was silently staring at her in the dark. However, no suspicious person was found in that direction. The premiere was a success. Everyone who has watched the movie, whether they are peers, professional film critics, or ordinary viewers, have given this film extremely high praise. A new era in the history of science fiction movies, beyond the blues, the excellent acting skills of the Phoenix daughter, era-defining masterpiece, the birth of the next new film star. They did not hesitate to use laudatory words and use various article titles discussions about this movie and Sia Yingluo, including her seemingly ambiguous relationship with Jong Yuruo, are popular topics in hot posts. The popularity has increased a lot, and the energy it brings has somewhat alleviated Sia Yingluo's physical symptoms. She is no longer as weak as she was some time ago, but she still needs to recuperate. Xiaoling came to see her and asked her how she was. She said to her mother, "Mom, you don't have to worry too much. Although the world tree has not grown much, its decline has been stopped. When the film is released on a large scale next week, it will definitely be able to collect more energy." Xiaoling nodded, "Let Tianyi arrange a few more activities for you and strike while the iron is hot." "Mom, I know," Xia Yingluo said. Xiaoling gently held her hand. It made Xiaoling feel very sad for such a precious daughter to encounter such a difficult thing. She said, "Jongyu treats you well. You should go out with him more often. Speculating on scandals is a way to quickly increase your popularity. At least you must maintain the current popularity of the scandal." She was slightly in a trance. In recent days, she has been cooperating with Jongyu's hype. To be fair, he is a good partner. He knows how to advance and retreat. He takes good care of his female companion. If anyone really becomes his girlfriend, it will definitely take 8 lifetimes of cultivation. Blessing. However, such a comfortable date is not as beautiful as it seems on the surface. For some reason, she still always felt like someone was staring at her. This feeling was especially obvious when he was dating Jongyu. She didn't know who that person was, but after conjecturing, he was able to follow her for so long without being discovered by her and her bodyguards. Only Wei Lingnan. South of Wei Ling. When I think of this name, my heart clenches and hurts. Ever since she bit him hard when they were separated in the bathroom last time, he has never appeared again. I wonder if he was angry or something. Obviously she didn't want to be harassed by him, but when he really didn't come, she felt so lost. Xiaoling called her, "Yingluo, Yingluo." Only then did she come back to her senses. "I know, Mom, I will go out for afternoon tea with Jongyu tomorrow. I have arranged for a photographer to follow me, so don't worry." She put aside the thought about Wei Lingnan. No matter what, increasing popularity as much as possible is a top priority. The next day, she still wore a soft light-colored dress and soft makeup, which concealed her frail complexion well. Jongyu took her to have tea in a high-end commercial district in the city. The two of them sat in an outdoor tea house, wearing ordinary clothes and sunglasses. She also had a thin silk scarf tied around her fair neck, slightly covering her chin. Halfway through drinking tea, she said she wanted to go see the cherry blossoms not far away. Jongyu said, "I'll go with you." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1359. Chapter 1359 Cherry Blossoms Rain. Xia Yingluo smiled brightly, went downstairs with him, and walked into the quiet cherry blossom forest. The light pink fallen cherry blossoms were in full bloom, and the wind blew like a gorgeous and powerful rain. She raised her head and looked at the beautiful elves flying in the air. She stretched out her hand and touched the lightness and softness of the petals. Another gust of wind. The silk scarf around her neck slipped and floated into the distance. She exclaimed in a low voice, "Oh! How are you going to get out later?" The small silk scarf not only has a decorative effect, but also bears the important task of disguise. Although she has worn sunglasses, her appearance is still very charming, and it is also the same standing together. Zhang Yu, who is outstanding and eye-catching, is still worried about being recognized. It's never wrong to wear more than one scarf. Zhang Yu also understood her concerns. Seeing the square silk scarf floating farther and farther away and disappearing into the blue sky, he said, "It's okay, I'll buy you a new one." Next to the cherry blossom forest is a large commercial district with high-end clothing. There are many stores, so you won't be delayed for long. Xia Yingluo originally wanted to tell him not to bother, but she thought that the risk of exposure for the two of them walking together was too great, so she said, "Okay." Zhang Yu turned around and left. Xia Yingluo was alone in the cherry blossom forest, with falling cherry blossoms falling like rain on her soft hair and round shoulders. She was always tired easily these days. When she saw a chair for pedestrians to rest under a tree, she walked over and sat on it. The chair was a wicker chair that was moved from who knows which store. It was very comfortable to sit on. She closed her eyes slightly and gradually became tired in the fragrance of flowers and the incense wind. I had a dream. Dream of the dark purple and mysterious planet Scatena. She was still an ignorant little princess. Her guardian, the man named Nan, half knelt down and took her hand, treating the wound on her hand caused by the Zerg. At that time, the sky was full of stars and fireflies were everywhere. The flying fireflies on Scatena are different from those on Earth, but they also have poignant legends. Legend has it that they are all formed by the souls of warriors after their death. I don't know, after the big explosion that destroyed the entire family, those who died in vain. Have the tribesmen also turned into Luiying? Cherry blossom petals fell on her delicate white cheeks. Faintly, a noisy voice came, "Get up. Who are you? Why are you sitting in Miss Pei's position so casually?" Her arm was pulled painfully, and a strong force dragged her from the chair to the ground. The fighting habits she developed in her previous life made her instinctively want to react, but her body was too weak now and she had no time to complete any action. She fell heavily, her teeth hit her lip, and a trace of blood oozed out. Xia Yingluo woke up and raised her head. Through the dim light of her sunglasses, she saw several people surrounding her, looking at her with disdain. The person leading the group was none other than Pei Yan. Why is she here? Xia Yingluo struggled to get up from the ground as old and new grudges surged into her heart, her voice cold. "Who attacked me just now?" "What's wrong with me?" a young man in a t-shirt said to her arrogantly. "Don't accept it. You don't even know what you are doing. You even dare to sit on the chair prepared for Miss Pei Yan in our store. Miss Pei is so kind. I won't argue with you, you can get out." Xia Yingluo then discovered that this group of people had also brought over a small coffee table of the same style as the wicker chair. Some people were holding tea. Is it possible that it was all for Pei Yan? Is Pei Yan planning to drink tea and enjoy the flowers here? She really guessed it right. Pei Yan let out a disdainful snort. "If you don't have money, don't imitate others' flower appreciation. This is one of the most prosperous business districts in the city, but a cherry blossom forest that is blooming so beautifully is empty. It does not conform to common sense at all. Someone must have cleared the place, okay. Why doesn't this reckless woman in front of me know how to think about it?" A sense of superiority in terms of intelligence and status emerged spontaneously, and Pei Yan became even more contemptuous of Xia Yingluo. Xia Yingluo was not afraid of her. It's not certain who will get out. If it had been someone else, she might have given in to this matter today, but how could she give in to Pei Yan? Not to mention that Pei Yan and the others knocked her down when they came up. She was wearing sunglasses, and Pei Yan didn't recognize her for a moment. He only felt that this aggressive girl looked familiar, in an annoying way. Pei Yan didn't think much and said to several of his followers, "Kick her out." "Who dares to touch me?" Xia Yingluo got angry and said coldly to the followers, "If you don't want to die, come and try." Although she was slender, she was full of murderous intent when she said this, which shocked those people and stopped them instinctively. Pei Yan was very angry and scolded those people, "Kick her out? Are you all stupid?" He looked at Xia Yingluo angrily again, "Do you know who I am? Have you ever heard of the Emperor Pei's family? Those who know better should get out as soon as possible, and those who don't know better will have no place to cry later." The few followers who were scolded by her reacted and shouted, "Did you hear that? This is the eldest lady of the Emperor Pei's family. How about it, are you scared to death? You are carrying Miss Pei's shoes like this, not even worthy." Although he said this, he was frightened by the fierce momentum that Xia Yingluo had just burst out, and did not dare to go to catch her. "The Pei family will be embarrassed by you," Xia Yingluo sneered. "If Uncle Pei knew that you were arrogant in front of me, do you think he would remove your brother from the list of heirs because he thinks you are too embarrassed? What about elimination?" An ominous premonition arose in Pei Yan's heart, and the annoying familiarity deepened. She looked at Xia Yingluo and asked, "Who are you?" Xia Yingluo slowly took off her sunglasses. What caught everyone's eyes was an exquisite face, a little pale, with a thin layer of makeup, which made me pity her. The few Pei Yan followers surrounding her gasped unconsciously. "This girl is so beautiful." Under the cherry blossom rain, she looked like a fairy coming into the world. Her bright and cold eyes instantly made Pei Yan stand out. Under her ethereal beauty, Pei Yan instantly turned into a vulgar pink. Pei Yan looked like he had seen a ghost. Xia Yingluo." Xia Yingluo smiled softly, "Pei Yan, don't you know that being too stupid can lead to death quickly? How did a stupid person like you survive to this day? Are you still planning to use the Pei family to suppress me now?" Her questions made Pei Yan choke. In this city, and even in many places in the world, the Pei family can walk sideways, but only in front of the Li family, they can't. Even a 3-year-old child knows that the Pei family and the Li family are closely related. Pei Xian, the chairman of the emperor, lost to Big Boss Li in love more than 20 years ago. Even now, both families despise each other. How could the Li family give face to the Pei family? And, what's worse, as Xia Yingluo said, if Pei Xian found out that his juniors were embarrassed in front of the Li family, he would probably skin the useless juniors directly. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1360. Chapter 1360 Fans. Pei Yan's face was ugly. Seeing Xia Yingluo looking so arrogant and needing a beating, she couldn't swallow her breath. If the uncle were here, he would definitely not want to see his descendants shrinking in front of the Li family. Pei Yan comforted herself like this and ordered the followers around her sternly, "Why don't you drive them away? Believe it or not, I will file a complaint against you." The few followers were complaining in their hearts. They were all employees of a nearby coffee shop. Because Pei Yan paid and was their patron, they moved tables and chairs here for her to enjoy the cherry blossoms, and invited away the rest of the crowd for her. However, they didn't expect to meet Xia Yingluo by chance. Hearing Pei Yan call out the name of the girl in front of him, many people reacted, "Isn't she Xia Yingluo, who has become famous recently?" The one who starred in a Vanessa Cosmetics commercial and also became the heroine of Star Wars era. Her fairy-like face is really so beautiful and impressive. Coupled with her perfect family background and her scandalous scandal with the great actor Zhang Yu, it's hard not to recognize her. This girl has an astonishing identity and is murderous. They don't want to offend her. Miss Pei Yan, please be merciful and please be merciful. A follower had already tried to smooth things over, it's all a misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Pei Yangxing glared, wanting to eat people, is this how your store treats customers? Tell you, I paid. Believe it or not, I will prevent your store from opening. Those people are about to cry. They are just part-time workers. Whether the store can open or not is none of their business, but if they get into trouble for the store, the boss will definitely make it difficult for them to survive. Several people looked at each other, helpless, and had no choice but to persuade Xia Yingluo with a sad face, Miss Xia, don't argue with us if you have a lot of money, just let Miss Pei do it once. You see the weather is so good today, why not go to our store and have a cup of coffee? We'll give you a discount. Oh no, why don't we give it to you for free? It's because the weather is nice, so I want to enjoy the cherry blossoms here, Xia Yingluo said with a half smile. She knew that it was not easy for these small-time workers, but who told them to just take advantage of others and violently knock her off the chair? It's time to teach you a lesson. You all know who I am. She lowered her head and played with her fingernails. The exquisitely polished nails glowed with a cold white luster in the sun. Then of course you also know what my family does. Trust me, Pei Yan just has a way to make it difficult for you to survive in this store. Do you believe that I can make it difficult for you to survive in this city? The hearts of several people trembled, and they all remembered the rumors about the Li family. It is said that the underground forces hidden in darkness in the city are under the control of the Li family. As long as you offend the Li family, don't even think about leaving the city intact. In comparison, the Pei family, which only engaged in serious business, was not a threat at all. Weighing the pros and cons, they all made a decision. That's right, Miss Xia, it's us who have offended you. You can stay wherever you like. Well, we won't disturb you, so we'll leave first. As he spoke, he smiled apologetically and asked to apply oil on the soles of his feet. Stop, Pei Yan's face turned red with anger. How can you do this? Those few people didn't want to be stopped by her and ran away faster. From behind, a clear and calm voice came, stop. Those people stood still as if they were electrocuted. They recognized Xia Yingluo's voice. Miss Xia, please spare us, those people were about to cry. Xia Yingluo said calmly, just leaving like this? Take the garbage with you. She raised her chin slightly and pointed in the direction of Pei Yan. You called me trash. Pei Yan's face was distorted. You are the one being scolded, what's wrong? Xia Yingluo sneered and urged the clerks, why don't you hurry up? The clerks really didn't want to provoke Pei Yan, but under Xia Yingluo's coercion, they had to say to Pei Yan tremblingly, Miss Pei, it's windy here, why don't you go into the store and drink tea? We will give you a free order, a bunch of waste, Pei Yan scolded the clerks. Xia Yingluo didn't want to hear their quarrel and continued to urge, what are you waiting for? Get rid of the garbage quickly, go to Tianyi to receive the reward from Tanying in the evening, and just say it was my order to employ people. You must use kindness and power. She was a queen in her previous life. In this life, I have been immersed in it with my father and brother, and I have used it skillfully. Several clerks couldn't help but be overjoyed when they heard what she said. They were still a little worried that they would offend Pei Yan severely and cause the future to settle accounts. But now that Xia Yingluo said this, all worries were left behind before the temptation of profit. Miss Pei, please, don't let us do anything. A clerk rubbed his hands and smiled, and several other clerks also gathered around. Don't touch me, Pei Yan was so angry that her lungs were about to explode when she saw this posture, but there was nothing she could do. There were so many of them, and she couldn't beat them or scold them. She had no choice but to give in. I will leave on my own. It's the right thing to do. Xia Yingluo smiled. Pei Yan looked at her bitterly. Xia Yingluo, you are fine, just wait for me. I'm fine, just waiting. Xia Yingluo replied calmly, smiling, watching Pei Yan angrily walk out of the cherry blossom forest. Silence returned to the huge cherry blossom forest, and the light pink petals fell softly on the old wicker chair, like a layer of soft sand. She still sat down on the old wicker chair and looked at the time. She had been arguing with Pei Yan for so long, but only more than 10 minutes had passed and Zhang Yu hadn't come back yet. There was only the rustle of the breeze in the cherry blossoms. She clasped her fingers lightly and waited for Zhang Yu. Suddenly, the feeling that someone was secretly watching came again. She turned around warily, but she saw nothing like what had happened many times before. She was disappointed and a little confused. Was it really Wei Lingnan? She was lost in thought when she suddenly saw a group of people pouring out of the cherry blossom forest, running towards her direction excitedly. Xia Yingluo. Look, it's really Xia Yingluo. That woman just now was right, Xia Yingluo is here. She looked at the formation and was confused. What was going on? I saw the group of people, both male and female, all young, different in height, fat and thin. Some were holding half-eaten ice cream, some were holding shopping bags, their eyes were shining, and they wanted to pounce on them immediately. On her. The group of people shouted indiscriminately. Xia Yingluo, give me your autograph. Xia Yingluo, I love you. Star Wars era is so beautiful, let's shake hands, Xia Yingluo. She then realized that they were actually a group of fans. I don't blame her for realizing it later. Although she was born into a family in the entertainment industry, her official debut as a star was only recently. She has never experienced such a battle personally, so it is normal for her to be stunned. But how did they know she was here? End of this chapter.